Hi, this is Jeff Blight, technical agronomist with Cooperative Farmers Elevator. And on this week's Field Friday segment, I kind of wanted to touch on something I'm really starting to see in these cornfields show up pretty rapidly. And I think it's only going to be the type of thing that's going to hurt us and get worse as we go forward here. You can see we're out in a cornfield here. You'll notice we're starting to get a lot of these leaves with some issues. We've got a lot of northern corn leaf blight showing up. You can see these these cigar-shaped lesions starting to really show up. They're expanding. They're more dense every day. I think it's really going to start to affect some of our end of the season, how this field holds together. You drive around now, you can start to see a lot of fields are starting to show a lot of dead areas, a lot of corn starting to go away fast. Some of that's just drought stress. Even though we've had some rains, we haven't had enough rains to continue to feed this crop through black layer. I'm out in this field. I don't know if you can see that very well, but probably 3/4 milk line, 1/2 to 3/4 in this field. So this field's got some work to do yet before its grain is finished. I don't like seeing this. All these diseased leaves really coming in. Fields that had fungicide may have a little less, but I think you're still going to see it show up in susceptible hybrids. The fungicides have probably been on close to 60 days. That's an awful lot to expect out of a foliar fungicide to last that long. So what conditions are causing this? There's a couple things going on. Northern corn leaf blight really likes it from 60 to 80 degree temperatures and lots of leaf wetness. Well, if we think back here, we've had a few of these mornings where it's been pretty chilly actually in the morning, but we've had a lot of fog, damp weather. The leaves are wet for a long period during the day, and some of these days have probably been conducive to this northern corn leaf blight getting started and starting to spread. With the forecast next week, we're looking at some more of these cooler days. I expect this to continue to show up. Hybrid sensitivity does vary a lot. Some hybrids and some genetics really do fight it off on their own pretty well. The other thing is, as this corn starts to get towards the end of its maturity, its end of its life, it gets more feeble at fighting stuff off, and it puts its #1 priority into finishing that ear and that grain in that ear. Anything that's stressing that plant, it's going to pull its juices and nutrients out of those leaves. Its defenses are going to go down. It's also going to start pulling out of the stalks. There's a few other diseases I'm starting to see. I've got a little bit of eye spot. I've started to see another disease that likes 60 to 70 degree weather. It's not as prevalent, but there is some around. Haven't seen it for a while because the conditions haven't worked, but this year we've got that showing up as well. And then we did an episode a little bit ago where there's Goss's wilt. If there's Goss's wilt out there, that's still out there. That's still spreading, and it will until that corn's basically brown. So all these things are going to shut this canopy down in a hurry, I'm afraid, in some fields. How much yield impact is there? If that corn's not black layered and it starts losing a lot of its photosynthetic area, if it's already drought stressed, we could be losing a little bit of yield, a little bit of grain test weight, possibly some kernel depth on this grain finish. That's a minor consequence. However, what I'm really concerned about, and this probably won't be the last episode I'm going to do on this year, I'm really worried about these stalks as we go forward here. This corn crop's been under a tremendous amount of stress this year with all the drought stress we've had in some areas and then the heat stress we've had in the whole territory. You can even see where we've had adequate rains as we get to the east. We still have some corn that has some tip back and some stellar yields, or not quite what we'd hoped for. And I think a lot of that has to do with the heat that we had right after pollination, that early grain fill period. It's still obviously held off on that stress better when it had more moisture versus where it didn't, where it just was a compounding effect. But I'm really concerned if we shut all these leaves down and the plant's not done filling grain, it's going to pull a lot out of these stalks at the end, and our standability is a major concern to me. There's a lot of these fields. We can see kind of this V pattern. On the center of the leaf, there's nitrogen deficiency showing up here at the end. We've had some rains, but we've also been a little short after that corn sucked up some of the rains that we did get. Now it's dry again. We've had a hard time getting this nitrogen into this corn this year just because of the soil conditions. So nitrogen shortage, diseases shutting down leaves. We're set up really ripe for stock issues. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. We're gonna have, you can drive by some of these pockets that have been burnt up. The tops are already, kind of busting over. That's telling you we're gonna have problems down the road here. So don't be waiting for this corn to dry in the field this year. I realize we're not even really getting into bean harvest hard yet, but just keep an eye on stuff. We all know from about now until the end of harvest, the last number of years, every year we get a couple of days of wind that's really bad, and that's really going to have some consequences, I'm afraid, later this fall if we still have corn in the field. So just wanted to make you aware of something I've really started to see show up in the last week or so, and I anticipate it to get worse. So just be aware. But with that, that's this week's Field Friday segment, and we'll see you next week.